سلام 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 peaceful peaceful peaceful.
When I was in the process of trying to convert a Muslim from Egypt to become a Christian, I discovered a lot of things that I didn't know. I had assumed wrongly that all Muslims were terrorists, hijackers, kidnappers, that they didn't believe in God, they didn't love Jesus, they worship a black box in the desert, they kiss the ground 5 times a day. This is pretty much what we had been told. These were the things that, the kind of rhetoric that was pumped into our heads. And when we were out here doing, quote, missionary work, these were some of the misconceptions that we suffered on in those days. The person that I had targeted for conversion was named Muhammad Abdul Rahman from Egypt, and he was a very sweet, kind man, and we even wound up working together, traveling together, and we'd go long distances in Texas where I lived at the time, and all the way I would be doing these dialogues with him, which were basically me trying to convert him. At one point, you observe there's a world around you, and of course you say, yes, so how did he get there? Well, for the atheist, of course, there was this big bang took place, boom, everything just jumped out of nothing, you know, just all of a sudden, and then there was, you know, this world that was covered with water, had blue-green algae all over it, and all of a sudden this bacteria started eating it up, and then those little new birds came around, and some bigger ones started eating them, and a bigger one got those, and they never bothered to tell you where all these things came from. Even in one of their books, I swear, I saw it, one of the books is showing how birds were created, or sorry, evolved. Don't use that word. How birds evolved. It was fish, you know, jumping out of the water, trying to, you know, for millions of years they were jumping out of the water to eat those flying things that were coming over, like bugs and things are flying over. And after so many, you know, millions of years of doing that, I'm not joking. This is what it said. And I'm looking at this going, hold on a second, guys. Where did the bugs come from? You didn't even you said they were coming jumping for these bugs. So this is no logic in this. These aren't even theories. This is somebody who didn't even take the time to think. You can catch somebody real fast. Did human beings come from monkeys? Stop and think. You've been told that. Every one of us has been told that. This is what the books say clearly. Think about it. And you look at human beings, and you look at monkeys. You know what's interesting about this? You can look at human beings, and you can look at monkeys. You haven't caught it yet, have you? If there's such a thing as humans evolved from monkeys, how come we still have monkeys? Did you even think about that? So what, have they been evolved yet? But if it was really like these guys are saying, this survival of the fittest, you know, that's kind of how they bring this thing, then all of those things that we have out here wouldn't be there. In fact, you know what one of the oldest things on earth is? Cockroaches. How many of you knew that? Cockroaches are one of the oldest things on earth. And they're the most fragile. You can look at a cockroach and he just dies. But 1,000 more will be there tomorrow, right? Evolution. And there's no evidence anywhere that any species ever evolved to another species. Evolution's within species. Anybody heard of somebody by the name of Charles Darwin? Was he an expert in his field or an amateur? It's well known he was an amateur. In fact, it was a hobby for him. He didn't really know what he was saying. The only reason he became popular is because there were some people who liked what he was saying and they were promoting it because it served their purpose. What was the thing that really brought him to a lot of his conclusions. What one thing was it that he discovered, so-called discovered, that made him sure that there was evolution? Anybody know? Finches. Where? It was in the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador. Now those islands all have different ecological systems. In other words, you have heavy rocks on one, sand on another, trees on another. So the same exact bird is living on these different places. But in each place, the bird has a different bill. The shape of the bill is different to be able to eat what's available on that island. And when you go from island to island, you observe that and you say, well, there's evolution. Never stop to think that they're all alive at the same time. He didn't take into consideration that they had adjusted to their environment. He didn't take into consideration that each and every one of them is alive. He just said that's evolution, trying to prove some points that he had believed that he read from other people who were more or less scientists in their areas. But they only had theories. But in October of 1998, there was a special on PBS talking about the effects of El Nino. Anybody heard about it? They only showed it once. It never showed again. You know what El Nino is? Anybody know El Nino? That weather phenomenon that was going across that part of the world, and it would be warm at the wrong time of the year, cold at the wrong time of the year, and we had that going on for a couple of years. It was a strange phenomenon. Okay? And how it affected the Galapagos Islands, the same place. And so here they're showing what happened when it changed, and those islands no longer had the same produce on it. They didn't have the same foliage. It was different. And I remember the announcer on the show, he said that Darwin would be surprised to find that it didn't take 6 million years for evolution to change the beaks of these finches. But within 6 months, when the eggs hatched, the beaks had changed to adapt to their environment. Whoops. You didn't read that in any books, did you? Because it doesn't fit the purpose. How many of you heard of Harun Yahya? His real name is Adnan Oktar, and he lives in Turkey, in Istanbul. I went to his house last year, and we sat together, and through a translator we talked about some of these subjects. Now his websites are very clear on this. The proof is there. If you want to see about exposing this whole evolution thing with clear proof, we're talking about scientific and genetic and DNA, chromosomes, the whole bit, all of the subjects that are real popular to talk about. Go and read it and see for yourself that the biggest, and we're talking about one of the biggest frauds that's ever been perpetrated on human beings is this nonsense that we came out of monkeys. Now I will say that after considering some of the things in our recent political realm, that maybe there could be a few that slip back a few notches. Nah, I won't say that. Besides, I'm from Texas, I gotta be careful. Alhamdulillah, you can't elect him again. Where were we? Oh, I want to come back to this proof. Now, what I was doing here was just using the rational argument to show you that something is not right. So what is right? This is what we want to know. What is right? Well, what's right is that as far back as we find human beings on the earth, they really aren't that different. Dr. Fatima Jackson, who is one of the professors in the Maryland University, and she holds a chair for anthropology, was on a television show. I had her on 2 programs.